this is John with Legislative Weekly, letting you know exactly what your government has been up to. This week we have quite a few very interesting developments coming to Canada's criminal justice system. So stay tuned for the update, and if there's a particular item you want to jump to, feel free to hit the timestamp in the video description down below. So first up on our list we have Bill C-83, which was introduced in the House last week. Now, this bill brings about a huge number of changes to Canada's prison system, including the removal of solitary confinement as a form of punishment. Now, solitary confinement has gotten a lot of flack over the years as being a fairly ineffective method of punishment, as it actually leaves people even more violent and even more antisocial, having undergone it. In replacing it, Bill C-83 will introduce what is called a structured intervention unit, which are certain areas of the prison where you put the prisoners who cannot be trusted with other prisoners, so quite similar in concept. But these prisoners will be guaranteed a minimum of 2 hours of meaningful social interaction throughout the day. So Bill C-81 comes in the wake of multiple court rulings across Canada deeming solitary confinement to be an unconstitutional form of punishment. So the clear goal behind this is to shift away from the purely punitive approach of just, locking them up and hoping that they somehow get better, and more towards a restorative form of justice where we, yes, keep these dangerous prisoners away from other prisoners who they could potentially hurt, but at the same time maintain our basic obligations to human rights under the Canadian Charter. In addition to the removal of solitary confinement, Bill C-81 will also provide for less invasive body cavity searches through the use of scanning technology. Now, this is going to be a very welcome change, I think, both for the prisoners and for the guards who have to be searching these body cavities for drugs or shanks or whatever else may be in there. Furthermore, this bill also creates an obligation on corrections officers to respect the autonomy of healthcare providers. All in all, these changes are a very welcome shift in the way we deal with prisoners, hopefully creating a prison system that is better suited for its intended purposes of actually providing correctional services. Over on the Senate side, we have Bill S-215, which was introduced earlier this week. Now, what this bill does is it allows courts to impose a heavier punishment on people who commit violent crimes against Aboriginal women. Now, Aboriginal women are a notoriously underprotected group here in Canada. According to a report from StatCan in 2011, they are 7 times as likely to be murdered than any other group, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Now, as much as I would like to think that this bill could do something, frankly, I'm not feeling too optimistic. For people who are out to commit violent crimes, they're very rarely thinking about the consequences. And it has been shown time and time again that increasing the severity of the punishment does not actually dissuade people from committing these crimes. Frankly, I'd like to see them take a different approach by offering more support to Indigenous women and better policing. That being said, I can see where this bill is coming from, and I can only hope that it will make a difference. So lastly, we have Bill C-84, which was introduced in the House last week. Now, the goal of this bill is to amend the criminal code to give greater protection to animals on 2 fronts. Firstly, it redefines bestiality within the criminal code to expose a loophole which was exposed in the Supreme Court in the case R&D&W. Now, in that case, the court determined that based on the language of the criminal code, for someone to be convicted of bestiality, there needs to be penetration, which is, pretty absurd. So this bill will change this big loophole to make it so that any sort of inappropriate sexual act with an animal, regardless of whether there's penetration, is illegal. Secondly, this bill greatly increases the scope of criminal liability for animal fighting. So now it's not just the people who are orchestrating these fights, but people who are maintaining the arena, people who are involved in training, people who are involved in transporting or breeding these animals. And all of these people will be chargeable for the promotion of animal fighting under the criminal code. Hopefully, these two changes will allow the government to crack down on a lot of these sickos who are taking advantage of these animals and, yeah, hopefully result in a lot less of these very heinous crimes. As always, this is John Woo with Legislative Weekly. Thank you so much for tuning in. For more updates on what your government is doing, please subscribe to us or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn at Codify Legal Publishing. Thanks again, and hope to see you again next week.